Good morning, everyone, and welcome into Wake and Take. It's your boy, Jason, and we've got some football to talk about today. And of course, we're just sticking with the training camp theme. What the hell else are we going to talk about? We have so many reports coming out from every team's training camps. I'm going to break down the biggest ones. We're going to talk Tua and Jordan Love's contract as well. It's going to be a fun one. Lots of great information. I've even got some smaller under the radar players in this episode, a little bit more so, that I'm excited to talk about and help get those players on your rosters, some little sleepers and stuff like that. So it's a good one. It's a good one. We've been on fire with the training camp news, but we're going to keep it going today. Go ahead, take out your coffee, sit back, relax, and enjoy the show. My coffee is delicious this morning, in case you were wondering. It tastes really good. A good cup of Joe today. Good morning to you, Mark, Tef, Jamie, Terminal Sarcasm. Love to see you all, as always, talking some football. As Technology points out, we're all just degens here. We're all just excited to talk football, even if it's still only July. We're getting closer to August, though. We are. August is almost here, and it's going to be good. That's going to be some great stuff. But we're already getting the good stuff. We're already in training camp. That's where we're at. That is where we're at right now. It's where we've been at for the last week or so. And it's only going to get more and more exciting until we're finally in September. The great news about this week, ladies and gentlemen, is two things. We've got two great news before we get into news. First, the pads come on today. Practicing for the last week has pretty much been padless for the most part amongst most teams. This week, pretty much the rest of the teams that haven't already had pads are adding pads into their practice. Full-blown practices are about to be underway this week. And Thursday, we've got the Hall of Fame game. Football is back this week, August 1st, 8 p.m. Bears, Texans. So we're definitely going to talk about that on Thursday and Friday as we learn what players we can expect to play. From what I hear is we might actually see some Caleb Williams action on Thursday. I don't think they should do it, but that's what I'm hearing so far. We'll see how it trends once we actually get closer to the game, but that would be wild and probably be the most exciting Hall of Fame game of all time. But that's Thursday. Pads are on this week. Things are really heating up at training camp, but we're not here to talk about what's about to happen. We're here to talk about what happened over the weekend, what happened after Friday's episode, and it really is a lot, so go ahead and buckle up. Before we get totally too far into it, I am going to start with one highlight that I liked a lot, that everyone liked a lot. There's a lot of highlights I'll bring up in the show, but we're going to start with this awesome Caleb Williams highlight as we talk about him in the Hall of Fame game potentially playing. This is him scrambling out and throwing the ball to Keenan Allen. And it's just a fun one. Who doesn't love starting a Monday episode with a little highlight action? So here we go. This is Caleb Williams rolling out of the pocket, throwing off while running, totally off platform, and just really fits it into Keenan Allen, who makes an awesome diving catch. But I just look at this. Look at that throwing motion right there. It's insane. And it's just a perfect spiral. Zips it in between, or maybe not a perfect spiral. It's a throw. And he just zips it in, though. He zips it in and gets caught. Fun little highlight. You love to see it, all the comments and replies to that one. Oh, I thought it was Patrick Mahomes. That's what we're coming to expect. We're expecting some big things from him this rookie season. Very exciting stuff in Chicago. Hopefully they have their guy, right? Hopefully they have their guy, and he's definitely trending towards that way. So yeah, fun little highlight. Lots more stuff to talk about with the Bears later in the show, but I want to go ahead and break down these contracts that happened. First, Tua Tagovailoa. He got extended by the Miami Dolphins, and he is agreeing to a 4-year, $212.4 million extension per Ian Rappaport and Mike Ruffalo. This is a $53.1 million average, which is actually the highest on a 4-year extension in the NFL right now, at least at that time. And then, of course, Jordan Love goes out and signs a 4-year extension worth $220 million. That actually makes him the highest paid quarterback in NFL history. So really crazy stuff between both of these guys. First, the Tua Tagovailoa contract actually happened before Jordan Love's, which was actually a bit of a surprise. Pretty much every report out there said that Jordan Love's contract was close and Tua's was not. It seems that something happened, whether it be Tua officially was I'm conceding, whatever. Because this contract's not bad. It's not great. It's not bad. It is actually a top 5 contract in terms of annual earnings amongst quarterbacks, but it is more so a Jared Goff contract. And I think what we're about to see, especially as we discuss this Jordan Love contract, is just a change in the quarterback market. Like this Jordan Love being the highest paid quarterback in NFL history is going to last about as long as it has for a number of other quarterbacks that were the highest paid quarterback in NFL history. I wouldn't be surprised if there's a new extension for like Patrick Mahomes by mid-season or something to make him the highest paid again. Like it's a cycle that always happens. So I'm not really going to read too much into Jordan Love being the highest paid quarterback in NFL history. But I think what's interesting, or the more interesting thing, is this Tua contract, because it's 212.4, 53.1 on average. That is actually the Jared Goff contract. So think about that. Don't think about, oh, like this is a lot of money. This is a top 5 contract. Don't think about the contracts right now. Lots of quarterbacks are under extensions, like those are going to be more deals that come out, right? Like it's changing. Jordan Love's not going to be the highest paid quarterback in a while. What we do know is that Tua Tagovailoa and Jared Goff make the same amount of money. And that is what does not need to be buried there. That is what I find very interesting, because Jared Goff is, hitting his 30-year-old season and, is not necessarily has the ceiling that some expect Tua to have. I mean, Tua literally has really great potential under him, and with his weapons and what we've seen from him, we could see a world where Tua finishes as the NFL leading passer, especially with the right Tyreek Hill season. But he has the injury concern. So what we know now is that the Dolphins view him as a 3 to 4 year option and not necessarily their franchise guy, at least for now. They do want to kind of see what happens with his health before maybe signing him to another deal. What I just find interesting is that they value him like the Lions value Jared Goff, a guy who's a few years older, a guy who doesn't necessarily have some of the skill sets that Tua has, although they're both pretty similar in that they're more of a pocket passer quarterback. But it's Jared Goff we're talking about, a guy who was almost laughed out of the league and had to be sent over to Detroit to save his career. And even then, we all laughed at Detroit for taking a chance at him. So I just think it's funny, or at least interesting to note, that he's making about the same amount of money as Jared Goff, instead of saying that he's a top 5 paid quarterback. I think that's a better way to put it. And I think that that's more in line of how the Dolphins view him and how we should be viewing him as a fantasy asset. Yes, he does have the ceiling, but there are some concerns in his long-term health and even his short-term health that have led to him making Jared Goff money as opposed to Jordan Love money. And all I want to say on the Jordan Love contract is what I've already said. He's not going to be the highest paid quarterback for very long. And I think it's just lucky for him to be in his contract negotiation period at the time he was, because he did do enough his 1 year starting to show that he deserves to be one of the highest paid quarterbacks in the league. Had he done enough to show he gets more money than Joe Burrow or Trevor Lawrence? Probably not. Maybe Trevor Lawrence. Definitely not Joe Burrow. But, the playoff win in only his first season, kind of the historical implications of the last, few Packers quarterbacks that sat for years before starting. I can see why this organization is getting very, very excited for him, especially with a lot of his production really starting to come towards the second half of the season when he really, really started lighting the world on fire and finishing the year as a top 5 fantasy quarterback. I think Jordan Love deserves the money, plain and simple. Does he deserve to be the highest paid quarterback in the NFL right now? No. But the market is just trending away to where $220 million for 4 years is, that's just what a quarterback is worth, ladies and gentlemen. And Jordan Love's a really, really good quarterback, so he deserves the money. That's really the best way to put it. Somebody else will beat him. Like, there's going to be a new contract. Maybe next season it's CJ Stroud. Maybe, I don't know. Either way, he's not going to be the highest paid quarterback for very long. And I'm sure we'll be in a couple seasons like we did with the Patrick Mahomes contract. Oh my God, they spent so much money on Patrick Mahomes. Now the Patrick Mahomes contract is a great deal, right? So I just think that this is just money at the end of the day. And the Packers, to lock down their franchise quarterback, had to spend that much because that's where the market is at. And so I wouldn't be reading into this as, oh, we need to love Jordan Love so much more in Dynasty. I really don't think this does too much for his fantasy value, although I'm never really one of the people who sees the contract extension and is like, okay, now it's time to trade for a player. You should not care, really, at the end of the day. We knew Jordan Love was going to get an extension, so why would this affect his value, even if it was a bigger contract than we might have assumed? It just shouldn't. It really shouldn't. But it does just kind of bring some more oomph into why I've been saying trade some of, like, a Caleb Williams, for example, for a Jordan Love and get a cherry on top, because Jordan Love now has a vote of confidence from his franchise, has all the weapons, and actually has the season of production to where it's a lot less of a risky asset. And that's where I'm at when it comes to that. But so I just think that's where we're at. Like, quarterbacks just make a lot of money, right? So I'm not upset about this move, and in fact, I think it's a fine move. It's a totally fine move. It's just what the Packers had to do, right? It's just what they had to do. So, and it's just good for Jordan Love that, his rookie contract and everything, like just his career trajectory lined up in such a way that he was due for an extension when the quarterback market was going wild. Does this Love contract increase the value of his football cards? I have not checked that, but I will say, I have not stopped buying Justin Fields rookie cards since this offseason's episode. For everyone not in the know, we do Wake and Take Monday through Friday at 10 a.m. Eastern all year. And this is not just a summer training camp thing. This is not just an in-season thing. We're in the muck for this show. And for Jamie, one of the people who, of course, just rides with the show all season long, a few others of you as well. I got so bored at one point, I did an entire episode on football card values. During that episode, I made the bold claim that everyone in the audience should be buying Justin Fields rookie cards. And I have not stopped. I think I'm up to 11 now or something like that. I have them behind me somewhere. But yeah, I haven't stopped buying Justin Fields football cards. And I do think that, just to sum up that video, it's a really good way to find value in fantasy football by looking at the football card market, at least in Dynasty, because it's like those are people putting their money towards something, and you could kind of see like for example, the reason that made me want Justin Fields rookie cards is the fact that like his rookie card was like $3, but then like Jalen Hurts is like 30 or whatever. And yes, of course, Jalen Hurts is more proven, but the ceiling of a player, I think, plays into that. You can like kind of cross-reference like fantasy football rankings versus like football card value rankings. And you will find some interesting discrepancies. And whether it be that the fantasy football card market valuation is more accurate or the fantasy football market valuation is more accurate, I think that's what we'll come to learn. But it's interesting. It really is an interesting market to look at because it's just a different one, but it's in the same space. So anyway, didn't mean to have that tangent this morning. But yeah, I've got 11 Justin Fields rookie cards. And this guy feels great about it because I don't know if you've heard, we talked about it a little bit on Friday and maybe Thursday's episode. Russell Wilson picked up an injury, a small one, and Mike Tomlin has continuously chosen to hold Russell Wilson out of practice, despite Russell Wilson probably being good to go. All reports, and Russell Wilson himself saying that he feels good and wants to play. But Mike Tomlin is holding him so that Justin Fields can get first-team reps. There's an NFL article about there, NFL.com, about some of the lessons learned from camp this weekend. One of the top lessons was about this Steelers quarterback camp. I'm going to read a little bit of an excerpt here. Wilson exited organized team activities as the presumed QB1, with Tomlin indicating Wilson had pole position in the battle this offseason. He also taken nearly all the first-team reps to start training camp, and as recently as last week, Tomlin indicated that nothing had changed in the QB hierarchy. But the big news has been that Fields has made the most of the extended opportunity to this point. Fields has responded with a strong few days of practice. His pretty deep ball to Van Jefferson drew a roar from the fans in Pennsylvania. Then on Friday, Fields hit George Pickens on another long crowd pleaser. Sunday was merely a walkthrough, but it was the fourth straight practice Wilson has missed. According to Garofalo, Steelers players and coaches alike have seen Fields' steady improvement. There's a new offensive coordinator in Arthur Smith, and both quarterbacks are trying to learn the system. Neither man is an incumbent. Both started somewhere else last season. Sure, Wilson is the more established quarterback, but Tomlin proved last season he'll ignore pedigree for proficiency when he kept Kenny Pickett on the bench for Mason Rudolph, who played better down the stretch. So could a QB change come? It's possible, even if this battle appears to have a long way to go before it's decided. Either way, things in Pittsburgh appear to be a lot more interesting now. And this is what we've all expected. What did we expect, guys? Russell Wilson was very clearly washed in Denver. Whether that be a Sean Payton thing or a Russell Wilson thing, we'll definitely come to learn. But what we know about the NFL, and especially fans, is they're very, very fickle. And the exciting player is the one the fans want. And when anything was going to happen to Russell Wilson, we all knew deep down in our hearts that Justin Fields would go out there, be electric, and make the fans want him to start. It's already beginning. And unfortunately for Russell Wilson, it started with a minor injury to where Mike Tomlin said that he just doesn't want to make a minor thing a major thing. But given just everything we've heard this offseason, I just feel like it's a little bit more than that, whether it be Mike Tomlin wanting to light a fire under Russell Wilson's ass or whether it be that the team just wasn't too sold on what they were seeing from Russell Wilson and really wanted to see some Justin Fields action. Because again, even day one of the injury, Russell Wilson came out and said he felt good enough to play. And he didn't. Mike Tomlin continuously held him out. And when that happened, I said, all right, maybe it's just one day. It's turned into 4 days now where Mike Tomlin has decided to sit Russell Wilson and put Justin Fields in there in the first team. And Justin Fields is playing well. That's the big issue here. If Justin Fields continues to play well, he's losing the job. It doesn't matter. Every NFL organization is going to value youth and ceiling over a bridge quarterback on a 1-year, very, very low vet minimum contract. Every single day of the week. The Steelers punter makes more money than Russell Wilson. That screams enough to me. Now, Justin Fields, of course, doesn't make a lot either. He's still on his rookie contract, but, they gave a draft pick for him, and his rookie contract is more than Russell Wilson's as well. Now, do I still think that Russell Wilson will have an opportunity? More than likely, but I just want to bring home that pole position point because Mike Tomlin has not faltered on that at all. Arthur Smith has not faltered on that at all. Never once has Russell Wilson been the starting quarterback. He has always been in the lead to be the starting quarterback, meaning the door was always open. And it was only going to take one slip up, whether it be an injury or poor performance, for them to pull the plug on the Russell Wilson experiment and see what they have in the young, extremely talented former first-round pick Justin Fields. I don't get why we as a fantasy community wrote off Justin Fields so quickly because we saw from him last season. We literally saw from Justin Fields everything you would want to see from a quarterback, a young quarterback who historically hasn't been a good passer. We saw improvements in the passing department. In fact, last season, we saw career highs from Justin Fields in pass attempts, passing yards, and completion percentage. And he did all of that in 2 less games than his previous best season. Only 13 games played last season, but 370 pass attempts for 2,500 yards. In 2022, he played in 15 games, only had 318 pass attempts and 2,200 yards. And in fact, some of the efficiency metrics were there as well. He was 9th in deep ball accuracy. He was 9th in pressured completion percentage, 13th in deep ball completion percentage, 20th in passer rating. I know that's not the best, but it's not bad either. 12th in air yards per attempt, 5th in fantasy points per drop back. I mean, the guy was doing well in only 13 games, and he had career highs in all of those numbers. And the beautiful thing about that is they went through an offensive coordinator change mid-season, and he still was able to push through. This was his first year with true weapons, right? He had DJ Moore for the first time, and he finally had a pretty decent passing season. In fact, you can even look at his game logs, and you see in week 4 against Denver, he threw 335 yards and 4 passing touchdowns and only 25 rush yards. So he was getting it done as a passer. He had a 268 passing yard game, a 282 passing yard game. I mean, he was doing it. And this was in a shit offense, like a bad offensive coordinator, bad head coach, only DJ Moore, terrible offensive line. Now he's going to the Pittsburgh Steelers, where, say what you want about Arthur Smith, the quarterbacks have almost always produced for fantasy purposes, right? Even Marcus Mariota was fine. In fact, his career kind of revived. He was on the way out. Now he's at least a backup quarterback again. Desmond Ridder was scoring fantasy points, even if he was turning it over at an unbelievable rate. And now he's sent over to Arizona to be a backup again. Right? They were fine. Ryan Tannehill, his career was revitalized under Arthur Smith's tutelage. And the Pittsburgh Steelers have a very, very good offense for a Justin Fields type quarterback, especially with Arthur Smith in town. 1, it's a heavy run game offense. 2, it has lots of deep shots. 3, a very, very good offensive line. So I think it really is destined for success for Justin Fields. You guys know it. I've been saying that he would take over by mid-season. It's seeming that he could take over before week 1, which I think would be wild. I don't think that's the scenario I want, to be honest. I think I would rather him take it from Russell Wilson because, think about it this way, if Justin Fields does start week 1 and come out slow, then it's going to be the opposite. Then it's going to be like, all right, well, let's see what Russell Wilson has. Why do we bring him in? So I still think they should at least start the year with Russell Wilson. I think that's why they brought him in, and then they can pull the plug and bring Justin Fields. But I mean, if Justin Fields actually plays really well through camp, continues to do this, plays well in preseason, then we might not see Russell Wilson at all next season, which I do think would be wild and sad for Russ. I mean, I did kind of want to at least hear that things would go well for him, but I'm too much of a Justin Fields stan. I'm very excited about the ceiling that we could bring from him. And I am still going to say Justin Fields is going to win us leagues. He's just going to do it. I still say and maintain the worst case scenario for Justin Fields is he sits on your bench until week 10 and then wins you your fantasy football championship by scoring 30 plus fantasy points every single week. Like, it's going to be electric when he gets out there, regardless of if he's improved as a passer or not. Like, he's still going to rush a ton, and he's still probably going to be at least okay as a passer. And the beautiful thing is the wide receivers are stepping up on top of Pat Freiermuth. This Steelers offense so far at camp looks very interesting, and beat writers are getting excited. I'll start with saying that Russell Wilson's days may have been numbered when they drafted Roman Wilson. I mean, you can't have two R. Wilsons on the team, and now Roman Wilson, in Russell Wilson's absence, is actually crushing it in camp. And it's funny because things were actually really quiet when Russell Wilson was out there, but now that Justin Fields is the quarterback, we're not only hearing from Roman Wilson, we're not only hearing from George Pickens, we're not only hearing from Pat Freiermuth, we're also hearing from Van Jefferson. I mean, Justin Fields is spreading it around and creating highlight reels in training camp right now. So it's very interesting. And I like getting some confirmation bias, to be completely honest. But Roman Wilson is starting to turn some heads. And it's really just good to hear, as it has been taking some time for him. It's been very, very quiet. But quietly good day for Roman Wilson. Made a tough grab in 7 shots. Had about 3 or 4 other catches on various routes, using his speed and explosiveness to attack defenses horizontally, especially on over routes. Roman Wilson is getting some first-team reps during first-team segment of practice. Justin Fields found him for a big gain over Beanie Bishop to start the period. No one on the field was better on day 3 than Roman Wilson. He made catches all over the place. He's separated from various routes from the slot, including out routes, slot fades, a dig, crossers, and a drag route. The Steelers have started experimenting with him playing on the outside too, and Justin Fields has grown fond of Wilson recently. Incredible stuff. I mean, incredible stuff. And the thing that the craziest thing for me this offseason was the fading of Roman Wilson. I don't get it. I don't understand it. In fact, I'll never understand it, but I'm happy with it because I have been drafting him as much as I can. Roman Wilson, coming out of the Senior Bowl, was easily, and I mean easily, the best wide receiver there by far. It was not close. It literally was not close. You can ask anyone that went to the Senior Bowl. It was Roman Wilson. And then it was maybe Ladd McConkey. For me, it was Brendan Rice at the time. Dude looked awesome. And there were some good wide receivers there. Xavier Legette was there. Ricky Pearsall was there. Luke McCaffrey was there. But Roman Wilson shined time and 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 time again. In all facets. In all facets. And then he crushed it at the Combine. And then everyone pretty much was like, all right, I like Ladd McConkey more. Out of nowhere, everyone was like, I like Roman Wilson more than Ladd McConkey. He crushed it at the Senior Bowl, was better than him at the Senior Bowl. He has more college production coming from Michigan, so he has the NFL-style offense. Oh, and he's interviewing great. Like, he has this dog mentality, flying an airplane to high school. Like, oh, man, Roman Wilson is a stud. And then all of a sudden it just flips. And they have the same profile, Roman Wilson and Ladd McConkey. Like, they both run a 4.39. They're both like right at 6 foot. They're both like right at 190, 200 pounds. But Roman Wilson has more college production. A better, maybe not a better landing spot, a decent landing spot. And I'll say that, Ladd McConkey now landing on the Chargers, that's a better landing spot. Lots more volume potentially going his way. But still on the Steelers, the spot that Roman Wilson's going into is the Deontay Johnson slot, which has seen, over 100 targets, which has seen 1,000 yards receiving. So it should be pretty decent for him too. I'm excited. Roman Wilson, I think, has been unfairly faded this offseason, despite only producing well, showing up at the Senior Bowl, showing up at the Combine, interviewing well. And the hype has faded for him really across the board. I'm excited that some hype is bubbling back up for him. And it's really exciting news for the Steelers offense, as it's not just him. It's not just Justin Fields. Pat Freiermuth is showing up as well, which has taken some time. I mean, Pat Freiermuth, his rookie season was like everyone's favorite Dynasty tight end. Everyone. Like, it was like everyone was chanting Muth like all the time. It was awesome. I was listening to the fantasy footballers. They had the whole Muth thing. It was great. He had a pretty decent rookie season, and then injuries, and then bad quarterback play. And now we moved him down to like tight end 18. But everything we liked about him is still there. And now we actually have a tight end friendly head coach in Arthur Smith. And now it's finally, looking like Pat Freiermuth season. Nick Faribault points out the Steelers have moved Pat Freiermuth all around the formation, out wide, in the slot, in line, and is getting a ton of targets. Clearly an emphasis so far. Anybody who follows the Steelers knows that new offensive coordinator Arthur Smith likes to use the tight end position. Maybe it was just because it was the first day, or maybe it was a view into what the Steelers offense will be about this year. But there were plenty of 2 and 3 tight end sets in the initial practice. Freiermuth, Hayward, and Washington got most of the work. Pat Freiermuth said the majority of practice was 12 and 13 personnel. I like it. It kind of pigeonholes defenses into what they have to do. So it sounds like Pat Freiermuth and the tight ends are being used a lot in the Steelers offense, which is what we already expected and knew would happen. But it sounds like Pat Freiermuth as a whole is about to be utilized very, very interestingly this season. And he is an incredible value right now. Last thing I want to mention on the Steelers is that Calvin Austin, it seems it's over. It really does seem the Calvin Austin show is over. I know he has electric speed, but every highlight pretty much that we're hearing, at least when it comes to deep shots, is Van Jefferson, who was, of course, a deep shot merchant in Los Angeles. Sad news, really. Van Jefferson is a better wide receiver than Calvin Austin. I just want to point that out. Van Jefferson seems to have completely taken away Calvin Austin's role in the Steelers offense. So if you want to take a shot on a deep shot player on the Steelers, take it on Van Jefferson, not Calvin Austin. I say that because Mike DeFabo points out Pickens and Van Jefferson were the other 2 wide receivers in 11 personnel grouping alongside Roman Wilson. So it seems the top 3 are Pickens, Jefferson, Wilson, Pat Freiermuth out there as well. So that's the Steelers offense. Some good stuff coming out there. Get your Justin Fields shares, guys, because it's only getting closer and closer and closer to the official Justin Fields starting day, and it's going to be awesome. It's going to be awesome. So I had a little bit of Ladd McConkey talk in there, so why don't we move on to the Chargers, as Ladd McConkey is crushing it. Jim Harbaugh has come out and said that Ladd McConkey has been off to a really good start. He's a really, really excellent route runner. We knew that. He's been really good, really dialed in right from the beginning. And so I don't want to sound like I hate Ladd McConkey. I do like the landing spot a lot, and I do like the profile. Again, he stood out very well to me at the Senior Bowl and did crush it. We haven't seen much production from him, and health has been a big concern. So I do just feel weird drafting him in the first round of rookie drafts right now, and honestly feel a little bit weird drafting him where he's going in redraft drafts as well. For the most part, I'll take some shots on him here and there, like if the ADP is right. But I'm not really reaching for this player. In fact, I'm kind of taking some shots on Josh Palmer and even some DJ Chark at the very, very end, as I really do think that baby Chark is ready to turn some heads in Los Angeles as well, because I think that he fits in perfectly to that offense, and they need someone to fill that role, and the exact role is the DJ Chark role, just running deep and being like a nice number 2 option with some explosive plays. That's what he's done his entire career, and he's been pretty damn good at it. And I do think that him going to Los Angeles means he will play that role. So I like the value play on Josh Palmer and DJ Chark more than Ladd McConkey, but it is an asset I want if I can get him for the right price. I do think he's geared up for a ton of volume, and he is going to be, the slot receiver for this Chargers offense that I think is going to pass a lot more than people are expecting. And that's what it seems at camp. I mean, Justin Herbert has looked phenomenal, and they don't seem to be holding him back at all. There's a ton of Justin Herbert highlights out there. Lots of play action is being worked in, and I just think it's exciting. And I talked about it. I've been saying all offseason that Justin Herbert's being unfairly faded just because of the Jim Harbaugh, Greg Roman expectations. Yes, of course, they were run heavy in their time as coaching together. Even at Stanford with Andrew Luck, they ran the ball a lot. But still, Andrew Luck was electric at Stanford. It's fine. You can have less volume and just have more efficiency. And even then, Greg Roman and Jim Harbaugh, they're quarterbacks in the NFL. We're calling Kaepernick and Lamar Jackson. So, of course, you're going to run the ball a little bit more. So I just think that the Chargers are going to look at their personnel and see Justin Herbert and be like, we can't hold this guy back. It's Justin fucking Herbert. So I want him everywhere, no matter what. But I also do want to get into this passing attack otherwise. It does seem that Hayden Hurst is leading the tight end room right now over Will Dissly. So I do think that's important to note. Hayden Hurst has been at least good, okay. He's been okay in his NFL career. Like, he's shown up here and there, had some decent games, and for the most part has been a reliable option. The Chargers will probably lean on him a decent bit, so I don't mind taking some shots on Hayden Hurst at all, especially if he really is locking himself in as the tight end one. So that is a name to keep track of, especially with how cheap he is right now. Also, Daniel Popper has pointed out that DJ Chark is the wide receiver working with the one team right now over Quentin Johnston. So that is terrible news for Quentin Johnston, but great news to those of you like myself who have been taking some shots on DJ Chark this offseason. Quentin Johnston has not looked good. Every highlight from Quentin Johnston is laughable, whether it be a body catch or my favorite, the one where Jim Harbaugh literally had to ask defenders to be nice. Stop playing so aggressive is what he told them. And then Quentin Johnston was finally able to catch it, but he didn't high point it at all. He just caught it with his body. And the only reason he caught it is because the defenders weren't playing. He's looked bad. He has not looked good. And the fact that DJ Chark is on the first team over him brings that point home. Gus Edwards has not been practicing with an injury, which has opened the door for J.K. Dobbins to be pretty good. And Kamani Vidal has made some noise as well, although he is working with the second team right now, unfortunately. In fact, Kamani Vidal is right now behind Jarrett Patterson in pecking order. I don't think that's going to last long. So if there's anyone that has been rostering Kamani Vidal in your league that, seems to be a little bit facing some trepidation, if you will, then I would go in and swoop for him, as I do believe Kamani Vidal, especially when the pads come on, is going to take over from this backfield. But J.K. Dobbins is gaining some hype, and a lot of it's coming from himself, but still, he says, I want to be a healthy bully, as Coach Harbaugh would say. We want to bully people and be able to do whatever we want to do. Everyone's been saying I've been hurt. They won't be saying that this year. So, it sounds like he's fired up and ready to do the right thing, I guess. I don't know. Obviously he can't control his health concerns and everything. When J.K. Dobbins has been healthy, he's looked really good. And so hopefully he is back to form a little bit. I do think that this is the right offense for him. I do not believe he'll get an exorbitant amount of volume, even with an injury. I do not think they brought in J.K. Dobbins on near vet minimum contract that they did to ever be a bell cow. I think he's a really nice change of pace, explosive back to come in and take some zone runs or just some stretches and stuff like that and see what he can do, see if he can break away a few. But I do expect Gus Edwards especially to be fed, and then Kamani Vidal if Gus Edwards goes down, just because those are the bowling ball type running backs. And that's what I think the offense wants at the end of the day. They want some explosiveness, but they don't want to feature that explosiveness to a high degree, especially one like J.K. Dobbins, who is made of glass, unfortunately. So I would just pump the brakes a little bit on this J.K. Dobbins hype, as I really don't think even if Gus Edwards gets hurt, that J.K. Dobbins is going to be a bell cow. I think that they would just move in Kamani Vidal, who Greg Roman says Kamani Vidal has been competing extremely hard, flashing, showing really good vision. In college, he was extremely productive and maximizes his runs. His brain and feet are connected really quickly. Once we get the pads on, I know we'll see more. So we're expecting a lot more for Kamani Vidal now that the pads are on. Good stuff coming out of Chargers camp. Get your Justin Herbert. Get your Kamani Vidal. Kyler Murray, just real quick. He just looks like Kyler Murray. And Kyler Murray is one of my favorite players in the league when healthy. So I'm going to take as many opportunities as I can to play a nice Kyler Murray highlight. This is just... You just get an awesome scramble and then a really good shot to Michael Wilson over the middle as he's scrambling. Just Kyler Murray stuff. And it just brings home the point from last week. All the reports coming out were that Kyler Murray is officially healthy, that he last year was, of course, able to demonstrate some straight line speed and everything, but had lost a lot of his agility and quickness. It is all back per some reports last week. And it's nice to see it in highlights as well. All the wide receivers, for that matter, on the Cardinals are showing up at camp right now. We've seen some really good Marvin Harrison highlights. We've seen some Greg Dortch highlights. I just showed a Michael Wilson highlight. We're also hearing that Zay Jones is playing well as well on top of Trey McBride. So it sounds like things are clicking in Arizona. Sounds like it's going to be a pretty fun offense. And I think that there's a lot of value to be had really across the board. Again, I still think Marvin Harrison Jr. himself is even a value. That dude is gearing up for a ton of targets this year and is such a good athlete that I'm expecting huge things from him, maybe even a top 5 season, from that guy. But even James Conner, really good value. Trey Benson, really good value. I think both of them are values. Michael Wilson available at the end of the draft, so really good value. Greg Dortch. I mean, all these guys available at the very end that I think we should be taking our shots on our Cardinals. Moving over to Minnesota, Aaron Jones, per Will Ragitz, looks super quick out there and could be in line for a big year if, and this is the key, he can stay healthy. That's, of course, what everyone is going to say about any player, but it's just nice to hear that Aaron Jones is looking good at camp. We saw some efficiency declines from him last season, and he really didn't look like the Aaron Jones of old. But this contract, him going to Minnesota, just felt like an angry move, if that makes any sense. Staying within division after the Packers, choose to bring in Josh Jacobs instead of rolling with Aaron Jones one last season. Aaron Jones is clearly pissed off, and I hope that just leads to on-field production. He's got a really good value right now, kind of going in the David Montgomery range. That's worth it, especially given he's an all-purpose running back. And what we saw from Ty Chandler was less than desirable last season. And so Aaron Jones genuinely has true bell cow potential if he can stay healthy. And that's, of course, going to be the main thing. He's never stayed healthy throughout his career, and he's only getting older. But I do think that the anger is going to lead to a bit more production from him, especially the Packers weeks. I will be starting Aaron Jones in DFS for sure. And I just think he's a good value. Actually, in Dynasty, for sure, I would be looking to scoop up some Aaron Jones, as I'm sure their manager is ready to move on from him. If I'm competing, I feel like you could get in on Aaron Jones for like Zach Moss. And that, I think, is a great move. And there are probably a plethora of other ones like that, whether it be moving from a different position. Either way, Aaron Jones is very acquirable in Dynasty and should have a really good season, health provided. Another thing coming out of camp, again, talked about it on Friday, the quarterback battle is heating up. Sam Darnold isn't necessarily doing anything bad, which is what we should expect anyway. But J.J. McCarthy is also continuing to impress, which is, I think, not what we were expecting. I think all of us, myself included, we're expecting J.J. McCarthy to go out there and struggle a little bit. But he has been doing nothing but good things, everything I'm hearing. In fact, in red zone portions, he had 5 pass attempts. 4 of them were touchdowns, and we continuously see highlights with him connecting with Jalen Nailor. Reports on Jalen Nailor is that he has locked down the wide receiver 3 role, so that's some good news and interesting to note as well, as that is a free asset right now, Jalen Nailor. And so, yeah, J.J. McCarthy looks good. Sam Darnold also still looks good. So again, I say that they have, I believe it's a week 6 bye. I think that's when J.J. McCarthy takes over. I think Sam Darnold looks really good week 1, looks really good week 2, and then looks just good week 3, just good week 4, and week 5 just looks absolutely terrible. And then J.J. McCarthy takes over because that's just how things work. They spent the high draft capital on him. Not a ton of money on Sam Darnold, but enough to give him a shot. And we've seen from Sam Darnold at least a little bit of a growth. He can at least manage a game decently with those weapons. And he's slinging it. He really is slinging it. Lots of camp highlights out there. Although every Sam Darnold highlight is just a deep shot. Like, we haven't really seen him doing much like picking apart defenses. But that's fine. Connecting with Jordan Addison and Justin Jefferson. That's really all we're asking for from him anyway. So, anyway, Sam Darnold looking good. J.J. McCarthy also looking good. It's only a matter of time. Speaking of matter of time, I'll go ahead and skip down a little bit. I want to talk about the Patriots because things are really heating up. When I talk about like the quarterback competition heating up in Minnesota, it's super heating up in New England, which is very interesting because, pretty much every report out there. Now, of course, last week we talked about it starting to like kind of dwindle. But Gerard Mayo, for the most part, and the Patriots organization for the most part, every step of the way, has said that Jacoby Brissett is their starting quarterback. Last week, it started to wane. Last week, I believe the quote from Gerard Mayo was, if we were just going off of spring practices, Jacoby Brissett would be the starter. Well, now we're hearing a lot more that, the competition is actually a competition. And what we know is that Drake May is probably going to win this thing. Jacoby Brissett, he's fine, right? He's fine. But this is already a lost season for the Patriots. They don't care about winning games, right? They don't care about making things, close. And if Drake Maye is looking just as good as Jacoby Brissett in camp or better with more electricity, at the end of the day, they're probably going to value ticket sales more than 17 to 21 contests that Jacoby Brissett would put you in. So Gerard Mayo has actually come out and said that this is a true competition now, like has completely wavered on the, Jacoby Brissett's the better starter now. Like, this is what he said. It's a true competition. What I will say is Jacoby is the most pro ready, and he shows it on a day-to-day basis, but it's a competition. I think Jacoby has handled it well. He's still mentoring these young quarterbacks and at the same time competing against them. And he's a very selfless individual and really helping these guys along. Mayo loves what he's seen from the rookie quarterback as well to this point, embracing the challenge of unseating a veteran with 36 starts under his belt. Just his competitive nature, Mayo said of Maye. He's one of those guys that grew up in a house full of boys. And so, those guys will compete all the time. But he brings that element to everything that he does. And, I've been around a lot of great players, and all of those players are competitive in everything, whether it's shooting a ball in the trash can or being out here in the 4th and 5, having to make a play. And he's definitely displaying that. Basically, to sum that up, it's a competition. As I said, kind of going into that. And to say the quiet part out loud, it's sounding like Drake Maye is winning this competition, but they don't want to say it yet. I think that they want to hold back some of the confidence and really, make Drake Maye continue to work for it. But he is showing up time and time again. If you go look at Patriots Twitter in general, it is just Drake Maye highlights. You're seeing things about Jacoby Brissett. But like I've been saying with Justin Fields, for example, the fans want the exciting option. And if it's a lost season anyway, you should probably pull the plug early, right? And Drake Maye has done nothing but look good at camp, which I think would be terrifying for Jacoby Brissett, to be completely honest with you. Drake Maye's scrambling and ability to extend plays has been notable through the first few days of camp. He has made more than a few plays with his legs and seems capable of buying extra time behind a struggling offensive line. That's exactly what you want to hear. And the reason that Drake Maye was probably brought in to begin with, you need a superhero as your quarterback for New England right now, and Drake Maye has that superhero potential. Now, of course, lots of things he needs to refine. His footwork, for example, was absolutely roasted by Bill Belichick going into the draft, but that's just stuff you can work on. And he's clearly working on it, as everything we're hearing is that he, is having like 80% completion percentage, doing well in these red zone drills, spreading it around to multiple players. So I'm saying right now, buy Drake Maye while you still can. The second he's announced as the starter, the window will have closed and it'll be over. But it seems to me, again, I talked about it after the draft. I had the pleasure of being able to interview him, boots on the ground coverage. He had insane aura. You could just feel it. He felt like a star. Just the way he talked, the way he entered the room, the way he carried himself, the way he's playing at camp. I really do believe he has it, and the Patriots got the right decision. And speaking of the Patriots making the right decision, I'm going to go ahead and say it. They hit in the wide receiver room. The wide receiver woes are over for the New England Patriots. Not only is Jalen Polk showing up, but Javon Baker has begun turning heads as well. Javon Baker, of course, had the later draft capital given. He's from a smaller school, and then picked up an injury, putting him out some of the camp stuff. But now that he's there, he has been lighting it up. In fact, it is Javon Baker highlight after Javon Baker highlight if you look on the timeline. Now, there's, of course, a few Polk things as well, which is good news. I think both have hit. Everything we're hearing so far is that Jalen Polk is a dog showing up at camp, and even had a nice quote, something about like weapons of mass destruction, he called the wide receiver room. So Jalen Polk, we talked about it last week too, already showing up and looking like the wide receiver one for the Patriots. But Javon Baker, I want to take a pause and talk about him for a second. Andrew Callahan says that he's lighting up one-on-one drills and made a really nice over-the-shoulder grab on a deep pass. Javon Baker doesn't look particularly close to carving out a major role in the offense. He's currently primarily repping with third and fourth stringers, but he brings a certain sense of urgency every time he's around the ball. He attacks the ball when targeted and shows aggressiveness running with the ball in his hands. And then came out later. This is that was the older tweet. Later it came out. Javon Baker, it's worth repeating, simply moves different from the rest of the receivers. He boasts more burst and sprints almost with a non-contact form of violence. And this is what we knew from him. We knew Javon Baker had dog. That's all we knew about him. And everyone has been saying it. He's the one that has alpha potential on this offense. And it's seeming like it's showing up. And it's seeming like him and Jalen Polk are hits. And that's awesome news for the Patriots organization, as of course Bill Belichick missed again when it came to that position. So I think it's over. I really do. I think they've done it. And I've been saying it from the beginning. I like the Gerard Mayo hire a lot. It feels right. It feels right. The team is really coming behind him. And I think he's learned a lot through his years. I mean, he's seen bad coaches and really good coaches in New England. And he's always been a player's guy. And you guys know I love the player coaches. So Gerard Mayo, I think the Patriots have made some really great decisions. I think they've hit on the draft. And I really do think that this year, while it may be a lost season, I really do think that they can build some momentum going into 2025. And hopefully they luck into another high draft pick and can really lock down this team, because it's good when the Patriots are good. At least I think. I enjoyed their years of the dynasty. So yeah, that's the Patriots. We'll move over to the Rams now, as I just want to victory lap some Cooper Kupp hype. Lots of Cooper Kupp hype out there, as we should have known. You guys know it. I had a top 5 mispriced values in fantasy right now, and I talked about how laughable Cooper Kupp's value is right now. There is not a single world where he should be going in the 3rd, 4th, 5th round sometimes in drafts. Absolutely not. I don't get it. I have a near 70% exposure to Cooper Kupp in Underdog right now, and I'm starting to have a near 100% exposure in Dynasty. I keep scooping this guy up because it's Cooper Kupp. It's Cooper Kupp. We saw from him last year in a less than 100% season, missing 4 games. He was still top 10 in total red zone targets amongst wide receivers. In games that Cooper Kupp and Puka Nacua were both on the field, Cooper Kupp had more games with double-digit targets than Puka Nacua. Cooper Kupp was clearly still featured in this offense, and him and Matthew Stafford are clearly have a great connection together still. But he was less than 100% returning from an injury, and Puka Nacua was playing really well. This year, however, he's 100%, and it's Cooper Kupp. It's Cooper Kupp. And so the Stafford-Kupp connection we're accustomed to has been on point today. Timing, anticipation, it's all been on display. This was on display via timing and anticipation between both players throughout Thursday's practice. On one play, Stafford timed the pass perfectly before Kupp even made his break at the top of the route. And then Kupp was there to make the sliding catch. Incredible stuff. We know it, right? Matthew Stafford and Cooper Kupp, they're best friends. That connection was never going to go anywhere. And I really don't think it's a hot take to say, and to continue to say, that Cooper Kupp will outscore Puka Nacua this year. I have 0 Puka Nacua. Absolutely 0. I like Puka. I don't think he should be valued as high as he is while Cooper Kupp is still there. I don't get it. Cooper Kupp played really well last year despite being less than 100%. Now actually is 100% and is still the leader in the doghouse. Like, Puka Nacua is still taking lessons from Cooper Kupp, okay? Like, let's not get it twisted. He's the wide receiver 1. Puka Nacua is going to have some weeks. They can both feast. In fact, I think they'll both be top 15. To be completely honest with you, I just think Cooper Kupp will be like 8 and Puka Nacua will be like 12, which again, not bad. Not bad at all. I think we're sleeping on Cooper Kupp way too much, and I'm excited to hear some camp hype right now. Yes, I am victory lapping some camp hype. Hey, I have to. Because that one's just been one I've been waiting on. However, I don't just want to talk Cooper Kupp being awesome at camp. I also do want to talk about Jordan Whittington, who has continuously been raising alarms in Rams camp. Honestly, a prospect I don't really know much about, but a prospect that has been turning some heads at camp. And we saw last year the Rams hit on a late round wide receiver. Why not again? This is their 6th round rookie, Jordan Whittington, out of Texas. He's 6'1", 205 pounds, and runs a 4.5 40-yard dash. Not the greatest college production, to be honest with you. I think his best season was like 600 receiving yards and only had a 19% college target share. But of course, Xavier Worthy and Adonai Mitchell were on the team as well. So you shouldn't expect a ton from him. But this is what's happened. I mentioned rookie receiver Jordan Whittington as one of my sleepers ahead of this season, and watching practice Wednesday reaffirmed that opinion. Whittington can clearly take on a variety of roles in McVay's offense. It will be hard for him to legitimately crack the starting offense during the regular season unless there's an injury, but it's apparent that the Rams are prepping him to take on more responsibility if needed. I saw another beat writer point out that he might be gearing up for a Deebo Samuel type role, maybe not year 1, but year 2 or 3, which is fine. So if you've got, a deeper league, you have a taxi squad, I don't mind taking some shots on Jordan Whittington. Again, I love Cooper Kupp, but I do understand the age too. Like at some point, there will be a replacement for Cooper Kupp. I mean, it's Puka Nacua, right? But, this offense is going to have to change. There is going to be room for other people. And if Jordan Whittington is turning heads at camp and getting interesting usage, I could see that being something the Rams do, given it's Sean McVay and given they're in a division with the 49ers and have been watching that archetype for years now destroy them. I wouldn't be surprised if they want something like that in their own offense. So I think it's a fun dart throw to take, Jordan Whittington. Let's see. We can talk more dart throws on the Cowboys. So unfortunately for all my Ryan Flournoy hype, I can't victory lap it yet. I can't victory lap my Ryan Flournoy hype yet, but in season I can, as it sounds like he is not going to be doing much at training camp, at least so far. Hopefully he gets back out there on the field. But after day 1 of camp, he was held out day 2 and hasn't been back since. He picked up a knee injury. Mike McCarthy has come out and said that it is day-to-day and that it's nothing serious, that they're just kind of taking it cautiously because they don't want to further the injury. But I would be concerned with that, as he has torn his ACL twice in college, and I believe it was the same knee. So if this is the same knee, I mean, that's going to be a concern. But, again, they say it's nothing serious, that they just want to make sure he gets healthy, yada, yada, yada. Still plenty of opportunity in camp, as everyone is now pointing out. It's actually not only is the wide receiver 3 role available, some people in Dallas are actually talking about the wide receiver 2 role becoming available as well, as Brandon Cooks has been underperforming at camp. This is what we expected anyway. That was why I liked Ryan Flournoy so much, is because Brandon Cooks was cooked and Ryan Flournoy has true, like he's an incredibly athletic wide receiver with really good size, really good speed, like everything you want in a receiver. So I think he profiles as a great wide receiver too for this offense. And I could go on and on about my Ryan Flournoy love. But unfortunately, both Jalen Brooks and Jalen Tolbert are turning heads right now. And I mean, we have to report it. I don't care how much I love Ryan Flournoy. We have to talk about the other receivers that are stepping up in his absence. Young wide receivers Jalen Tolbert and Jalen Brooks are amongst the top in the mix, battling to be the wide receiver 3 after Michael Gallup's departure. And both turned heads on Thursday. Brooks snagged a couple of high-point grabs along the sideline, and Tolbert made arguably the catch of the day on a back shoulder red zone throw from Dak Prescott. This battle is shaping up to be a heated one as training camp powers on. We'll see what happens here. Again, no matter what, I do kind of believe that Brandon Cooks is done for. Do I want him in best ball? Yeah. Will I take a couple shots of him in redraft? Yeah. He doesn't cost a lot, but in Dynasty, you should not be rostering Brandon Cooks. I don't think even if you're competing, you should not be rostering Brandon Cooks. You can go get Tyler Lockett or something if you want an older wide receiver. I know he's on the Cowboys. I know he looked okay towards the end of the season, but he is not looking good at camp. In fact, lots of drop issues. And so I'm not feeling it from Brandon Cooks, to be completely honest with you. It took forever for him to really do anything last year at all, which of course is probably going to happen on a new team. But I mean, if you're hearing reports from, undrafted Jalen Brooks turning more heads than Brandon Cooks, I just think that's an issue. I just do. And so in Dynasty, those are the players you want. You want Ryan Flournoy. You want Jalen Tolbert. You want Jalen Brooks. Again, Ryan Flournoy is the one I want. And this just gives us even more time to buy into him if he is dealing with an injury. Thank God it's not serious. In fact, Sam Williams, the defensive end. Either way, a defensive end on the Cowboys, Williams, actually tore his ACL and is out for the season already. So that's not great news for the Cowboys for it to already happen to someone. So thankfully, it's just a day-to-day injury for Flournoy. Hopefully he can get back out there. I'm still going to be pounding the drum for him as I believe in this prospect, but it's not a good start. I was hoping for some more fireworks. Hopefully he gets back out there this week in pads and can ball out. Another player on the Cowboys who's actually playing well at camp is Deuce Vaughn. We heard this a lot last year, so I'm not going to give a ton of advice here. I'll say this. For the second year in a row, it appears that we're going to see a heavy dose of Deuce Vaughn in practice. And in this setting, he should be pretty good. And he was on Thursday. He is going to be quick and agile and find room in the defense. Sure, they weren't tackling, but Vaughn was moving well in space. It seemed like he'll have a solid role, especially in the passing game. I mean, this kind of makes sense. We talked about Deuce Vaughn a lot last year, and one of the things that drew me to him was, of course, that his dad is one of the head scouts for the Cowboys, so they have a little bit of a family tie. But also, he was incredible in college. If you look at his college stats, he had 2 1,400 rushing yard seasons, and both of those seasons, he also had more than 40 receptions. So despite his size in college, 5'5", by the way, 5'5", 180 pounds, he was a mega producer. 84th percentile college dominator, 96th percentile college target share. But not a great combine, and did not really see the field at all last season. Only 40 rush yards and 40 receiving yards over the course of the year. But the door is a little bit more open this year. Of course, last year, Tony Pollard is going to hold you back. This year, you're just talking about Ezekiel Elliott and the other guy that I can't even remember his name right now. That is terrible. Oh, my God. Doesn't matter. It doesn't matter because he's not really that good anyway. What is his name? Why can't I remember his name right now? I'm pulling this up because this is actually bothering me. Why is it slipping? Rico Dowdle. Jesus. Okay. Rico Dowdle. Not a very good pass catching running back either. And Ezekiel Elliott, not a very good pass catching running back either. But we did see him do it for New England last year. In fact, he was New England Patriots led the New England Patriots in receptions. I don't think it was yards, but did have the most receptions. So he can do it. But I do think that they want, an actual pass catching running back at some point too. So Deuce Vaughn is looking like someone to take that satellite role. He's just incredibly small, like just so small. And I have a very hard time believing in any type of durability for this player. How tall was Darren Sproles? Like, Darren Sproles is probably as close as we're going to get, but I still think Darren Sproles was at least 20 pounds heavier and like 3 inches taller. But I'm going to fact check that. Yeah. Okay. 5'6", and 15 pounds heavier at 185. So only an inch taller. So maybe it's like within the range of outcomes, but Darren Sproles was also a lot more athletic, higher draft capital. They both went to Kansas State. Ooh, they both went to Kansas State. That's pretty cool. I did not know that one. Both Darren Sproles and Deuce Vaughn went to Kansas State. That makes you kind of get a little bit more excited about Deuce Vaughn. But either way, it still took some years for Darren Sproles. A lot of his production started on special teams, and then he got running back, production due to injury. So either way, I think he's fine. Definitely worth a stash. But I wouldn't expect too much until an injury happens, which probably will happen given the age of Zeke and, Rico Dowdle just kind of showing up out of nowhere. I do think that there is some room, but I would still be a little bit concerned about the size. I mean, 5'5", 170 pounds isn't the best. In fact, that's about the worst. But, he didn't really have any injury history in college. So, hey, why not? I actually have still a lot of teams to talk about, and we're already an hour in. Shit. I don't even think I'm halfway through this show sheet. Oh my God. So we're going to try to just fly through this. Dolphins. Devon Achane has added muscle and shredded fat. He says his legs are strong and he's focused on upgrading his upper body this offseason. So Devon Achane, as we've said, trying to figure out how to make himself more durable. We'll see what that means. But as I've been saying, I want Jalen Wright everywhere I can get him. And Jalen Wright has been showing up finally. Jalen Wright is back in the end zone showing that lateral agility and has been very, very impressive. Jalen Wright has had another hard, decisive run. He's seeing it and hitting it quick today. So I talk about this a lot. Jalen Wright, he has the size that Raheem Mostert and Devon Achane don't, while also having the speed that they do. And so I just think it's a match made in heaven. And remember, the Dolphins sent next year's 3rd round pick to draft him. So they spent a pretty high draft pick to be able to get him. They clearly wanted him. And we saw last year, neither Raheem Mostert or Devon Achane had an above 60% opportunity share. I think Achane had 50 and Raheem Mostert had about 55, if I remember correctly. So there's plenty of room in this offense. It is a committee. They do rotate people. And we're also hearing stuff that Devon Achane is working in the slot in camp. So there'll be times where Devon Achane's lined up as a wide receiver and Jalen Wright or Raheem Mostert will be in the backfield. So either way, Jalen Wright, an incredible value. I think he's going to be electric, not only for redraft, definitely for Dynasty, or not only for Dynasty, but also redraft. So Jalen Wright, someone I want. I'm glad to hear some drum beats. Eagles. This is cool. We have a new offensive coordinator, Kellen Moore. Very, very different philosophy from what the Eagles have run in the past. So how is it going to affect things? Well, things are changing. We've seen plenty of signs already through 2 days to indicate that the Eagles are still going to use Hurts legs and Kellen Moore's offense. We've seen designed QB runs, we've seen read options, and we've seen some RPOs. Jalen Hurts, however, has nearly twice as many completions through 2 training camps this year as he did last year. He has about 30 so far versus 17 last year at this point. He's been efficient and smart and is just sitting in the pocket picking defenses apart. What's really cool also is we're hearing a ton of Devontae Smith hype and A.J. Brown hype, of course, too. I mean, he's making plays, but a lot of it is Devontae Smith, who you guys know is one of my guys. I love myself some Slim Reaper. But it's just nice to hear that the passing offense in general is looking good, as so many people, not myself, have been saying that Saquon Barkley will not get the volume as a receiver. I have been dispelling that notion every chance I get. Again, running backs last year on the Eagles totaled up for 93 targets. That's actually a lot. And so Saquon Barkley, especially with a new offensive coordinator, could very easily get 90 targets this year. And, well, what have we seen through training camp? That exact thing. Saquon Barkley has been the most featured player in Eagles training camps. Saquon Barkley, through 2 practices so far, has 5 targets, 5 catches, and 7 carries, all with the first team. 12 touches in 2 practices is easily the most on the team. Also, what's very cool for you Will Shipley drafters, he is also getting first-team reps with the Eagles. Why is that important, Jason? Why would you care if you're hyping up Saquon Barkley that Will Shipley's getting first-team reps? Well, because it shows that they very clearly want receiving running backs. If Will Shipley is getting reps over Kenneth Gainwell, a guy who has loved the coaching staff so far, or been loved by the coaching staff his entire career, that is a screaming thing, a screaming thing. It's not an indictment. It's a positive thing. So it's not an indictment, but it shows that this coaching staff wants true satellite backs. Will Shipley is that, and it's cool he's already getting first team reps. Really good dynasty play. I mean, I don't think he's ever going to get like a ton of volume unless Saquon goes down, but there's still obviously going to be plays where Saquon Barkley can't be out there. Like he can't play 100% of snaps. So to hear that they want Will Shipley back there, not Kenneth Gainwell, I think is a great endorsement. Thank you, Mark. A great insight into how this offense is going to be run. And that is they're going to be passing it a lot more than the past. And they're going to be using their running backs a lot more as pass catchers than they have in the past. They didn't bring Saquon Barkley in to be DeAndre Swift. They brought Saquon Barkley in to be Saquon Barkley. Get him. The Buffalo Bills. 2 things. Ray Davis looks very comfortable making catches downfield. This is important. We've talked about this. James Cook, as much as we like him, as explosive as he's been, he's not a bell cow. It's been proven. The Bills have signaled that time and time again. Ty Johnson was getting snaps last year, right? We saw Latavius Murray, for some reason, get a ton of snaps last year. They like James Cook. He's going to have a big role. In fact, he's going to be about 60%, and that's awesome on this offense. But Ray Davis is going to get a ton of volume as well. And what we know about Ray Davis is he's not just a between the tackles grinder. He, in fact, led all running backs in college football last year in receiving touchdowns. He had 8 receiving touchdowns, or 7 or 8 receiving touchdowns, led college football running backs in that category. So he can do it. And we've been hearing it from camp too, that he is running routes and being a good pass catching running back and is likely the RB2, which means it's going to be a committee, at least for the most part, which is just awesome. This is handcuff plus now for Ray Davis. So definitely draft him at the end of your drafts if you need one. He's going to be good. We saw it hyper efficient in the SEC, hyper productive in the SEC, and can catch passes on a really good offense. That's all you need to hear. And then still just want to bring it home that, the Bills offense is spreading it around. Completion to Kincaid, a completion to Coleman over Douglas, completion to Knox, a completion to Shakir, a completion to Samuel. Like, it is just going around, which is fine. Kincaid, caught a really nice touchdown pass instead. In fact, one of the stories of camp from this weekend is Kincaid caught a touchdown pass and did the humping celebration, the air pumps. Why am I like missing words today? Either way, caught a touchdown pass. People got excited about it. Dawson Knox threw the flag on the third pump. Funny stuff. So Kincaid's obviously getting utilized, but again, I just want to say there's not an alpha on this offense right now. It is being spread around. Josh Allen's the alpha. So don't draft any Bills player, Kincaid especially since he has the highest value, thinking that he's going to be the leader in the clubhouse by a wide margin. It's going to be like 110 targets, 100 targets, 90 targets, 82 targets. Like, everyone is going to be within a decent range of each other, which again, it's fine. Like, Dalton Kincaid's going to have spike weeks, but I don't think he's going to have the consistent target floor that a lot of people are expecting. So I'm staying away from him at his current value. The Chiefs, Xavier Worthy is back. He has missed the last few practices with an illness. He is back, and immediately Patrick Mahomes took 2 deep shots to him during the first team period. So looking good. Glad he's back again. The biggest thing from Chiefs camp is that Patrick Mahomes is Patrick Mahomes again, actually taking some deep shots time and time again. That's exactly what you want to hear. We have been seeing Patrick Mahomes kind of designated more of a game manager the past 2 seasons. Now he actually has some weapons to be Patrick Mahomes again. Would not be surprised if he becomes the QB1 again. Accidentally unplugged my camera. Let me plug that bad boy back in. Loose USB cable. Very loose USB cable. It isn't loading. Oh, hold on. I'll go ahead and just move on to the Falcons, I guess. Or sorry, while on the Chiefs, actually, a lot of more things to talk about on the Chiefs. Kadarius Toney, he is still getting first team reps right now on the team, both as a running back and a wide receiver. So keep that in mind. They are not getting rid of Kadarius Toney quite yet, but the big thing to note, Sky Moore is done so. We haven't heard a single Sky Moore report. Deneric Prince, continuously still the RB2. Just want to bring that home. He's the guy you want. And then Clyde Edwards-Helaire and Louis Rees-Zammit are both taking direct snaps right now, which is very interesting. They're pulling out the trick book. It does seem that Louis Rees-Zammit will be the one kind of doing that stuff at the end of the day. So just keep that in mind. Still getting reps, which is exactly what you want to hear from LRZ. And then Hollywood Brown. This is what Patrick Mahomes said about him. No one told me like how much he can actually do on the football field. He can run those over the middle routes. He can run really good routes, and he can run deep. It's not that fast is the only thing he can do. So Hollywood Brown getting a ton of hype as well from his quarterback. Exactly what you want to hear. Again, Patrick Mahomes is back, which means all of his weapons are back. I like every wide receiver's value right now. I know it seems that Xavier Worthy is going high. Yes, but I think he'll at least produce there. And I mean, you want shots from Patrick Mahomes pass catchers. You just do. So I'm taking Xavier Worthy. I'm damn sure taking Rashee Rice, and I'm taking Hollywood too. Falcons, the Atlanta Falcons. Michael Penix. This is cool. Michael Penix just threw a back shoulder bullet to Rondale Moore on 3rd and 5, beating AJ Terrell. Why is that important? Penix, again, is playing with the 3rd team right now, along with Rondale Moore. So 2 things to note there. Michael Penix and Rondale Moore on the 3rd team right now. But Penix and the 3rd team offense moved the chains against the 1st team defense. So, hey, Michael Penix might be on the 3rd team, but he's playing against the 1st team defense and playing well against the 1st team defense, which is all you can ask for. Speaking of Rondale Moore, once viewed as the favorite to start at slot receiver, has spent the first 2 days with the 3rd offense, along with KC Washington, another player that a lot of people were expecting to make some noise after an impressive rookie camp. This is what I can say. Ray McLeod is firmly the starting slot receiver right now. Firmly. He was consistently the 2nd wide receiver after Drake London to get throwing reps from Cousins and was exclusively out there with the 1st team. He caught a deep home run from Kirk and Elevens and beat Jaden Price one-on-one. So, Ray McLeod, he's the Falcon slot receiver. I don't know what to say about it. In fact, it sounds like he's getting targeted more than Darnell Mooney, which is just wild. Nobody expected this at all, but it sounds like we need to go pick up Ray McLeod, the slot receiver. for the Rams system, but also with Kirk Cousins has almost always been productive. And so I want that player. I want Ray McCloud. I can't believe I'm saying it. Also, Drake London left the field because he overheated. He did end up coming back and things are fine. But just wanted to mention that it gets hot here in Georgia. And lastly, Kirk Cousins found Kyle Pitts time and time again. They connected on a number of different routes that resulted in 4 catches. And one in particular saw Cousins throw a dime to Pitts as he tiptoed the sideline. Again, I just want to say this as often as I can. Kyle Pitts is the alpha on the Falcons offense. He's bigger than Drake London. He's faster than Drake London. He's a better route runner than Drake London. He has a 1,000-yard season, which Drake London does not. He is going to be the focal point. He's the one that's roommates with the quarterbacks. Right now, the dorm is set up Kirk Cousins, Taylor Heineke, Michael Penix, Kyle Pitts. They're spending their nights together. They're sleeping in the same room. And he's the most athletic target on the offense. You want Kyle Pitts. You just do. Get him while you still can. Trade Dalton Kincaid for him, as our guy in the chat, Michael, did. He traded Kincaid for Pitts after the show last week. Let's go. The Bengals. Everything I've been saying about the Bengals is coming true, and I just love it. The only thing you had to do on Cincinnati was look at athleticism. All you had to do. Chase Brown, Andre Yosevich, Mike Gesicki. 3 very athletic players on a very good offense. Everything we want as fantasy football players. And yet, for some reason, people are like, yeah, it'll be Eric All, the blocking tight end from Iowa. People are like, yeah, it'll be Zach Moss, the unproductive running back that has been bouncing from team to team to team. And no, it'll be Jermaine Burton, who couldn't do that much in Alabama. Why were we thinking that? Anyway, Andre Yosevich, per wide receiver coach Troy Walters, he had a great spring. You want to get your best 3 players on the field right now. He's probably number 3 and playing well. We had to find a way to get him on the field. Mike Gesicki already had great chemistry with Burrow. They connected on multiple plays during team drills. They're still working through some things, which is what camp is for, but it's easy to see how Gesicki could be a major factor on offense. Chase Brown, throughout camp, has been taking the majority of first-team reps and looks good with them and is also working with wide receivers. All 3 of those guys, extreme values right now. Extreme values. Again, the Bengals would not have moved on from Joe Mixon if they didn't feel comfortable with someone in that running back room. It was clearly Chase Brown. The Bengals would not have moved on from Tyler Boyd and really not added to their tight end room in general if they didn't feel good. Right? And Mike Gesicki, of course, coming in, he can fit that big slot role that Tyler Boyd had, but also just replace Tanner Hudson, who was fine last year. Again, the tight end position on the Bengals has always been fine. Tanner Hudson, a dude none of us knew about, ended up on rosters. Now we have Mike Gesicki with actual athleticism. Get him. He's like tight end 29 right now. It's ridiculous. Get him. And then Andre Yosevich, he had 4 touchdowns last year as a rookie. I mean, I what do you want? And he's extremely athletic from Princeton? What do you want? Andre Yosevich, easy player to draft right now. Detroit Lions, and this is all JMO hype. Have to keep it going. Jared Goff on JMO. He just continues to get better. It's exciting. His consistency has raised a ton. He knows what time it is for himself and our team, and he's come to work really well. It's still early, but at this point, JMO is firmly entrenched as one of the guys. This is the best I've seen him look with Jared Goff. Williams has been getting open against the secondary routinely. He's been getting the ball on end arounds. He's coming off the sidelines after a series and picking the brain of Goff or OC Ben Johnson. Dan Campbell said on Saturday, look, he's more mature. And look, he banked some good reps last year. He said that Williams looks more refreshed and focused, and he's continuing that right now. He's more mature, has bought in, and is putting in the work. Because of that, he's continued to get better and better. You guys, I mean, this has been like my number one. Like, I remember getting laughed at. I mean, I agree. It was asinine of me to say this, but on Trade Gods earlier this offseason, I said, I want 3 first-round picks for Jameson Williams. Like, that's how much I believe in this player. I want him anywhere I could get him, and he's awesome. I mean, he really, really is awesome. Jameson Williams is, and I'm glad that he's finally getting some hype from teammates and coaches, and glad he's performing well at camp. Hopefully that translates to on-field production as well. Cleveland Browns. Nick Chubb is running what looks like full speed sprints on one of the practice fields. He's also doing agility drills and standard cutting through cones while carrying the ball. So Nick Chubb is doing what he can to return. Right now, of course, he is on PUP. And Deshaun Watson approaching this year differently. He said, honestly, it's just about blocking out all the bullshit. So basically, Deshaun Watson is just saying that the last 2 years, he's worried too much about what everyone else thinks about him because of the horrible things he's done. This year, he's just going to block it out and focus on him because this is what he said. I think blocking out all the noise and focusing on me and focusing on what I need to do to be the best Deshaun Watson I can be for myself, my family, and my teammates. So we'll see. Again, my whole thing is that Deshaun Watson is clearly a head case, that clearly the last 2 seasons he has not been able to block out the noise and it has clearly affected his on-field play. If he can successfully block out the noise and move on from the past, then I think he can at least tap into a shell of what he was. But right now, he's not even that. I mean, right now, he's a ghost of Deshaun Watson. So, and even that, not even like, he doesn't look like Deshaun Watson at all. He looks terrible. And I still don't believe that he has it in him, to be completely honest with you. I just don't believe that he has that type of mental fortitude to be able to push forward like that. I think he's too selfish. I think he's too immature. And so I don't believe in him. I just don't. I don't think he would say and do the things that he's done if he was mature and not a head case. But, you know, sometimes you just got to take people at their word. He is very cheap. So if you want to do it, you can. I'm not doing it. I'll tell you that. I'm not drafting him. But, you know, as a quarterback 20-something, there's more than likely worse damage you can do. But honestly, if I'm taking Deshaun Watson, I'm getting Jameis Winston as well. Because think about this. Jameis Winston said himself that the Browns told him that they brought in Jameis Winston to mentor Deshaun Watson. And it's not like Jameis Winston is like a picture of mentorship, right? Like, it's not like he's like the greatest human in the world. He has his own faults as well. So it's a weird one. It's just a weird one to me. And they're both really about the same age too, 29 to 30. So either way, Jameis Winston, I think, has some left in the tank as well, at least from a fantasy football perspective, to where we could see him out there. So anyway, I don't believe in Deshaun Watson, but his value is not a lot. So you can take a swing if you want to. It's just, I'm good. Raiders. Still got a few more teams. Sorry. Had the whole weekend. We have Friday, Saturday, Sunday news, but we're getting there. We're flying through. Raiders. Dylan Laub continues to get open and, splash. Antonio Pierce called him special and gritty, said his speed surprises you, and thinks that he'll be a difficult matchup for teams to deal with. Again, I've been saying it all offseason. Alexander Madison is terrible. Alexander Madison. It's going to be Zamir White and Dylan Laub. It's going to be Zamir White on 1st and 2nd down, and it's going to be Dylan Laub on 3rd down. And that's going to be electric. It's going to be great. There's room for both of those running backs to be fantasy producers, especially in PPR leagues. Very excited for Dylan Laub as a rookie, and definitely excited for Dylan Laub's career. Definitely recommend getting him in Dynasty for sure. And I recommend getting him late in drafts, as I do think he has some PPR upside as well. And I think that's a fun backfield to target. Brock Bowers is a force here in red zone one-on-ones. He has had 3 straight back shoulder fades for touchdowns and feels unguardable per Logan Reaver. So athleticism and domination on full display from Brock Bowers. Really good news for those of you that have been taking your chance on him for redraft. I, for one, have been terrified. I don't think there's enough volume to go around for him to be worth his current price tag. So I have been trading Brock Bowers in Dynasty especially and avoiding him in redraft. But, you know, if he's earning this tight end 1 role over Michael Mayer, the volume might be there. It's still like he's going to have to compete with Devontae Adams, so there's not a ton. There's not a ton to go around. But, you know, athleticism at the end of the day does win out. And I mean, if he's going to be a red zone threat, then he can at least get touchdowns and help his average out. So Brock Bowers looking unguardable at camp. That's exactly what you want to hear. Ravens, Devontae Walker, rookie 4th rounder receiver. Devontae Walker has been more involved the past 2 days. Why is this important? Because really for Ravens camp has not been anything to report at all because Lamar Jackson has been out. Now that Lamar Jackson is back, we're actually hearing some reports. And to hear that Devontae Walker has been involved is exactly what I wanted to hear. So that I believe that Devontae Walker is a really fun sleeper in both Dynasty and redraft. The Ravens field stretcher has always been productive for fantasy purposes, and they spent a 4th-round draft pick on him, and that's about all he can do is stretch the field. And so I think he's going to be very good for fantasy, especially in best ball. I like Devontae Walker a lot. I like the role, and I like the profile. And what's good is his catching was the big issue. But there's actually some highlights out there of him making some really nice catches. So it seems he has worked on that, whether it be the jugs machine or something. I don't know. But he's been honing in his catching skills. The 49ers, Ricky Pearsall, has been working on the side and has progressed to route running at what looks like full speed. He looks like he's on track to return to 49ers practice from his hamstring injury next week. So keep your eye on that. If Ricky Pearsall returns, I'm very curious to see where he works in and everything. So we'll see. We'll see. Again, I don't like Ricky Pearsall's value or really the talent production. I'm still taking my shots on Jacob Cowing. I like his potential a lot. You know, a mega producer in college with a really good profile as well, even if he is undersized. I think he fits well in this offense. Jacob Cowing does. And Ricky Pearsall is not a great separator at the end of the day. So I don't know how it'll work out, to be completely honest with you, at least at his current value. Next, Bears. I've been looking and waiting. From the day the Bears drafted Rome Odunze, I didn't understand the assumption that he'd just be the number 3 guy or whatever this season, says Jason Leeser. He's the 9th overall pick and led the NCAA in yards last season. He's looked phenomenal in training camp and is beating top corners. Great news for me and other Rome Odunze truthers. Again, at the end of the day, targets are earned off the field just as much as they are earned on the field. Rome Odunze and Caleb Williams coming in together in the same rookie class, being able to have an extra rookie camp together, I really do think is going to lead to a ton of targets together. I really do believe that Rome Odunze inevitably will be the alpha on this offense. I don't think DJ Moore is a long-term option there, and Keenan Allen definitely isn't. Will they all be serviceable? Of course. But the one with the actual ceiling is Rome Odunze. The Saints. Jawan Johnson has been seen on the practice field a month after foot surgery, catching passes from a jugs machine. So he's not out there running routes or anything yet, but Jawan Johnson is looking like he is on pace to recover. If we'll remember, after his foot surgery, the timeline was week 1. We kind of pumped our brakes on that. That did seem a bit hyperbolic. It seemed a bit optimistic. But we're still a few weeks removed, and he is out there catching some passes. I don't think he'll be 100% at week 1, but it is looking like he could be out there. So an interesting dart throw in drafts, to be completely honest with you. This is a profile we all really, really like. You know, he's got kind of the Darren Waller, like undrafted, but really athletic and a good route runner. And the tight end has been utilized a ton on the Saints before. So I think it's definitely something to keep our eye on there. And Taysom Hill is being utilized heavily at camp right now too. So don't forget that. The Texans, John Mechie. Drum beats are happening for John Mechie right now. Again, I do just want to say he is the wide receiver 4, and it's seeming like he will lock himself into that, which is good news, but it will take an injury for him to see any type of fantasy football value. So he can't even go on your taxi squad anymore for the most part. But so it's probably honestly not worth rostering him, to be completely honest. I would almost say just wait. If someone gets injured, you could use your waiver money on him. Your fab, because it might not be worth a bench spot unless it's a deeper league. You kind of come to that conclusion yourself, but I think he's more of a taxi squad type player, but he isn't because of how long he's been in the league. How does this keep happening? Let's see. Jets. Garrett Wilson and Aaron Rodgers' chemistry is building every single day, and so is the connection with Alan Lazard. That is still going. So I just wanted to put that up there again. It's interesting. It's just interesting that Alan Lazard is getting so many targets at camp. Garrett Wilson is beginning to as well, which is good. I mean, that was going to happen inevitably. I mean, he is the wide receiver 1, but there are still a lot of mouths to feed on this offense. So I wouldn't be so sure that Garrett Wilson is going to get 180 targets this year. I do think that Aaron Rodgers is a bit more of the quarterback to spread it around than people give him credit for. And with Alan Lazard looking so good, with Breece Hall being such a pass-catching running back, and with Tyler Conklin being a decent tight end, I do still think that Aaron Rodgers is going to utilize his offense to the fullest and not necessarily feed Garrett Wilson in the way that he fed Devontae Adams. At least personally, that's how I look at it. Will Garrett Wilson still be incredible? Yes, but I see him more as a wide receiver 20 than I do a wide receiver 10, which again, not bad, but overvalued. The Broncos, Bo Nix Started practice with a tough interception, but then bounced back incredibly strong. Ended the practice with 3 touchdowns, including 2 in the red zone. Really impressive bounce back by the rookie, and is looking like on track to be the starter for week 1. Greg Dulcich showed up to camp healthy and looked explosive, quick, and like the receiving threat the Broncos thought they were getting when they drafted him. Good news as well. Greg Dulcich continuing to build on the hype. The Panthers, Jonathan Mingo has produced his own highlight reel and could easily be considered the offensive star of training camp. He had 2 touchdowns in 11s and an over-the-middle catch for a solid gain on 7s. Has been a legitimately great practice for him. We continuously hear Jonathan Mingo things. What I want to say about that is he was never a wide receiver 1 and should never have been. Now the fact that Deontay Johnson is there on top of Xavier Legette and, of course, Adam Thielen, I do think that opens the field more for this player. He, of course, has the high draft capital, decent production, and a really good profile. I think against lesser corners, he could actually be productive. So, stash him on the bench for sure. The Titans, lots of hype building for Tony Pollard. He runs and catches the ball like a receiver. He runs the ball as well as any running back, and it makes him a really threatening piece on offense that you have to account for in all phases of the offense, says head coach Brian Callahan. There's also a great highlight that I'm trying to skip through since we're running so long today, but a really great highlight of Will Levis connecting deep on a wheel route with him. He brings it in. Again, I do believe that Tony Pollard is the featured running back. My prediction is 60-40 Pollard Spears, with both being incredibly usable options, especially in PPR leagues. Giants, Theo Johnson is off PUP and working with the first group right away, catching passes from Daniel Jones. Malik Neighbors is also everything that has been advertised so far at camp. Legit highlight after highlight for Malik Neighbors. Just draft him. I'm officially off the fade Malik Neighbors. I'm whatever. I didn't like the vibe check. He failed the vibe check at the NFL draft when I interviewed him. Awful aura. No display of confidence at all. Literally did seem like a mouse in that room, but I think he was just bummed he went to the Giants. Now it seems he has his head on straight. Now he does seem focused. And I mean, he's just so athletic and incredible that you've just got to bet on that player, especially in the range he's going. He's going to get a ton of targets. In fact, it's already been reported that he's a lock for 100 targets this year, of course, if he stays healthy. So you've just got to bet on him. I don't really want to, but I think you have to. And then if that's the case, then you have to bet on Daniel Jones as well, which is a cheap stack. You might as well. And then again, I say, if you're betting on Daniel Jones, do stash Drew Lock, because I do think that there is a huge scenario where they pull the plug and go to him due to injury guarantees, on top of just wanting to test a pocket passer in their offensive scheme, because they're probably going to be addressing quarterback in the draft next year, regardless of how well Daniel Jones plays. I think it's the writing is on the wall. We see it on Hard Knocks. They're done with him. So that should do it. That is all the news I have for you guys. Long episode. Lots of news coming out over the weekend. Tomorrow should be shorter, as it'll only be one day, so make sure you tune into that. Thanks, as always, guys, for tuning in. Love spending my mornings with you. Make sure you find the Wake and Take podcast via link in the description if you can't catch the live show. And make sure you follow me on social media, wherever you get it, at JFootballWine. You all have a magnificent Monday and a wonderful rest of your week. I'll see you tomorrow. Peace.
From the Podfather to you, I deeply appreciate you tuning in. And many ask, what can I do? What can I do to help support the hosts, the research they do, the production costs? Go to PlayerProfiler.com, Dynasty Deluxe, World Famous Draft Kit, Rankings, DFS Dominator, and of course, Data Analysis. Subscribe to any one of those, and you support all of us and take Player Profiler to the moon.